The ambush. The vast expanse of space was silent, as it always was. Stars shimmered in the distance, their light cold and indifferent. A lone human cargo ship, the Horizon, cruised through the isolated quadrant known as Sector 8R. Its crew of 6 was relaxed, chatting quietly as they monitored the ship's autopilot. They had no reason to worry. This route was supposed to be safe, free of danger, or so they thought. Captain Lana Reeves leaned back in her seat, sipping a cup of lukewarm coffee. Another quiet run. She murmured to her first officer, Marcus. Marcus nodded, his eyes scanning the console. Let's hope it stays that way. I'd rather be bored than have surprises out here. But surprises had a way of finding those who least expected them. A sharp, high-pitched beep broke the calm. The crew froze. The sound wasn't part of the usual system checks. What is that? Lana asked, straightening in her chair. Marcus tapped the screen, his expression growing grim. It's a distress signal, weak but consistent, coming from just ahead. Lana frowned. A distress signal. Out here. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Sector 8R was uncharted and rarely traveled. A ship in trouble out here wasn't just unusual, it was suspicious. Could be someone in real trouble, said Jenna, the ship's engineer. We can't just ignore it. Lana hesitated. Her instincts told her something was wrong, but the human code of ethics weighed heavily on her. They couldn't turn their backs on a potential rescue. Bring us closer, she said finally, but stay on high alert. The cargo ship adjusted course, its engines humming softly as it approached the source of the signal. The tension in the room thickened with every passing second. Then they saw it. A small battered vessel drifted in the void. Its hull was scorched, and parts of it were missing entirely. The distress beacon blinked faintly from the ship's side, a lonely plea for help. It looks abandoned, Marcus said, narrowing his eyes. Scan the area, Lana ordered. Jenna worked quickly, her fingers flying over the console. The results made her stomach drop. Captain, I'm picking up multiple energy signatures. Ships, hidden behind the debris field. Lana's heart sank. It was a trap. Before she could issue an order, the comm system crackled to life. A deep, guttural voice filled the cabin, dripping with mockery. Humans, it sneered. So predictable. You just can't resist playing heroes. Lana's fists clenched. Identify yourself. The laughter that followed sent chills down her spine. From the shadows of the debris field, alien ships emerged, sleek, dark, and menacing. The red insignia of the infamous pirate gang, the Void Claws, gleamed on their hulls. We are the Void Claws, the voice continued, and your ship now belongs to us. The crew sprang into action, but it was too late. A barrage of ion blasts struck the Horizon, disabling its engines and shields in an instant. The cargo ship shuddered violently, lights flickering as systems failed one by one. Powers down, Jenna shouted, her voice tinged with panic. Get it back up. Lana barked, but she knew they were outmatched. The pirates wasted no time. Their ships surrounded the Horizon, locking it in place with grappling beams. The voice returned, smug and taunting. Humans are so fragile, it said. We'll take your cargo, your ship, and maybe even a few of you for sport. Marcus glared at the console. It jammed our communications. We can't call for help. Lana's mind raced. They couldn't fight back, not with their systems offline, and no weapons to defend themselves. But humans had one advantage the pirates often underestimated: their ingenuity. Quietly, she activated a backup system hidden deep within the ship's core. It was a fail-safe mechanism, designed for emergencies like this. With a few precise commands, she sent out an encrypted distress signal. Untraceable, silent, but powerful enough to reach anyone within a 50-light-year radius. What are you doing? Marcus whispered. Calling for help, Lana replied, her voice steady. We just need to hold on until it arrives. The pirates began boarding, their towering forms visible through the ship's portholes. They were reptilian, with sharp claws and glowing yellow eyes. Their leader, a massive figure clad in jagged armor, stepped onto the bridge. "Humans," he growled, his voice thick with disdain. "Weak and foolish. Your time in this galaxy is over." Lana stood her ground, meeting his gaze. "You don't know us as well as you think." The pirate leader laughed, amused by her defiance. Brave words for someone about to lose everything. But even as he spoke, far away in the darkness of space, a human warship received the distress call. Its engines roared to life, and its crew prepared for battle. The pirates didn't know it yet, but their worst nightmare was on its way. Enter the Resolute. Far across the void of space, beyond the reach of the pirates' scanners, the human warship, the Resolute, loomed in quiet readiness. It was an apex predator among the stars, sleek, armored, and bristling with weaponry that could annihilate fleets. Commander Elias Hayes stood on the bridge, his sharp blue eyes fixed on the holographic display hovering before him. The distress signal pulsed faintly, its encrypted frequency instantly recognized by the Resolute's advanced systems. "Distress signal identified," said the AI voice of Athena, the ship's onboard intelligence. "Source: human cargo vessel. Status: under hostile threat. Pirates," Hayes muttered, his tone cold and sharp. He hated pirates. The crew around him sprang into action, their training kicking in without hesitation. Each member of the Resolute's team was handpicked, the best humanity had to offer. They knew what was coming. "Open a comm channel to all stations," Hayes ordered. The ship's intercom crackled, and his voice echoed through the halls. "This is Commander Hayes. We've received a distress signal from a civilian vessel, the Horizon. They're under attack by Void Claw pirates. You know what that means. Prepare for engagement." The crew didn't cheer or hesitate. They simply worked faster. On the Resolute, efficiency was its own kind of war cry. "Give me a full scan of the area," Hayes continued. Athena responded immediately. "Pirate vessels detected. 5 raiders, 1 flagship. Civilian vessel has been boarded and disabled. Hostile ships are operating at minimal energy output, attempting to avoid detection." Hayes smirked. "They think they're clever. They're not." The warship's engines roared to life, but not at full power. Hayes wasn't charging in blindly. He knew the pirates would have scouts and traps, but the Resolute had something no other ship could match: human adaptability and superior AI coordination. "Take us dark," Hayes commanded. The lights on the bridge dimmed, and the ship's external signature vanished. To any outside observer, the Resolute simply ceased to exist, blending seamlessly into the surrounding void. "Stealth mode activated," Athena confirmed. As the warship glided silently through the blackness, Hayes turned to his tactical officer, Lieutenant Area Voss. "What's your assessment, Voss?" "They've underestimated us, sir," she said with confidence. "They'll be focused on looting the cargo ship. They won't see us coming until it's too late." "Good," Hayes replied. "Let's teach them a lesson they won't forget." Back on the Horizon, Lana Reeves watched helplessly as the pirates tore through her ship. Their leader, Kradzak, lounged arrogantly in her captain's chair, his claws tapping on the armrest. "This is a fine haul," Kradzak sneered, looking at a hologram of the cargo hold. "Food, fuel, and human tech. You've done well, Captain." Lana kept her face neutral, though rage simmered beneath her calm exterior. "You won't get away with this," she said, her voice steady. Kradzak let out a bark of laughter. "Won't get away with this. Humans are scattered and weak. Who's going to stop us? You?" His crew roared with laughter, but Lana didn't flinch. She stole a glance at Marcus, who gave her a subtle nod. The distress signal had been sent. Now, they just had to survive long enough for help to arrive. The Resolute strikes. The Resolute drifted closer, its advanced sensors painting a vivid picture of the battlefield. On Hayes' display, The pirate ships were marked in red, their positions laid bare. "They're clustered around the horizon," Voss reported. "Easy targets, Commander." "Not yet," Hayes replied. "Let them think they're in control." He leaned forward, his tone sharp and deliberate. "Athena, plot a precision strike. I want their smaller ships neutralized in the first volley." "Calculating trajectories," Athena responded. "Targets locked." "Good," Hayes said. "Weapons team, stand by." The bridge was silent, the tension palpable. Then, in a single breath, Hayes gave the order. "Fire." The Resolute's weapons erupted in a brilliant display of controlled fury. Pulses of energy streaked across the void, slamming into the pirate ships with pinpoint accuracy. The smaller vessels disintegrated instantly, their crews never knowing what hit them. The pirate's flagship, however, remained intact, its shields flaring under the assault. Chaos among the pirates. Kradzak was on his feet in an instant, roaring in fury as his comms officer stammered. "We're under attack." "Unknown vessel, human warship." "Impossible." Kradzak snarled, his eyes darting to the viewport. In the distance, a shadow moved. A sleek, predatory shape that seemed to materialize from nowhere. The Resolute had arrived. "Return fire," Kradzak bellowed. His crew scrambled, but it was clear they hadn't expected this. Their ships weren't built for a fair fight. They thrived on ambushes and terror, not head-on battles with warships designed for destruction. The tide turns. On the horizon, Lana and her crew heard the explosions and saw flashes of light through the portholes. "What's happening?" Jenna whispered, hope flickering in her voice. Lana allowed herself a small smile. "Help has arrived." The pirate guards on the bridge began to panic, their confidence evaporating. One of them turned to Kradzak. "Commander, we're outgunned. We need to retreat." But Kradzak's pride wouldn't allow it. "We are the Void Claws. We do not run." The hunt begins. On the Resolute, Hayes watched as the pirate flagship attempted to maneuver. "They're trying to regroup," Voss reported. "Don't let them," Hayes said. "Athena, track their escape vectors. Cut them off." The warship surged forward, its engines flaring as it prepared to deliver the finishing blow. Hayes's voice was cold and calm as he gave his next order. "Let's show them what happens when you cross humanity." The first strike. The Void Claw flagship, the Ravager, was a monster of a ship. Its hull was scared from countless battles, and its engines roared like a beast hungry for prey. But now, it was cornered. The pirates on board scrambled to respond as the human warship closed the distance, its predatory silhouette cutting through the darkness. Kradzak growled, slamming his fist on the command console. "All weapons online. I want that human ship torn apart." The Ravager's cannons powered up, spewing glowing plasma bolts into the void. The projectiles streaked toward the Resolute, but the human warship danced through the barrage with a precision that seemed almost mocking. The Resolute's advantage. On board the Resolute, Commander Hayes watched the enemy's futile attack with a calm, calculating expression. "Pathetic," he muttered. "They're firing blindly." Lieutenant Aria Voss smirked as she studied the holographic display. "Their flagship may be big, but it's slow. We've already outmaneuvered them." "Good," Hayes replied. "Athena, feed targeting data to our railguns. Aim for their engines." "Acknowledged, Commander," Athena responded, her tone smooth and precise. The Resolute's railguns, sleek and deadly, hummed with energy. In moments, they unleashed devastating kinetic rounds that streaked through space like meteors. The first hit slammed into the Ravager's aft section, tearing through its shields and smashing into its engine core. On the Ravager, alarms blared as the ship lurched violently. Kradzak barely kept his balance, his glowing yellow eyes narrowing in fury. "Report," he barked. One of his crew stammered. "Engine 3 is offline. Shields are failing. Humans are targeting critical systems." Kradzak snarled, his claws digging into the console. "Deploy the interceptors. Swarm that ship." The pirate counterattack. Small, nimble craft poured out of the Ravager like angry hornets. They streaked toward the Resolute, their weapons blazing in chaotic fury. The pirates hoped their speed and numbers would overwhelm the human warship. But the Resolute was ready. "Enemy interceptors incoming," Athena warned. Hayes nodded. "Launch the drones. Keep them occupied." From hidden bays along the Resolute's hull, dozens of sleek drones emerge, each one controlled by Athena's flawless coordination. The drones moved with surgical precision, weaving through the pirate swarm and cutting them down with laser fire. The battle became a dazzling spectacle of light and movement, but the outcome was clear. The pirate interceptors were no match for the advanced human technology. One by one, they were obliterated. Aboard the Horizon, Lana Reeves and her crew watched the chaos unfold from the portholes of their disabled ship. Flashes of light illuminated the dark void, and distant explosions sent faint vibrations through the hull. "They're tearing the pirates apart," Marcus said, awe in his voice. Lana nodded, her eyes never leaving the scene. "That's a human warship for you. They don't fight fair. They fight to win." But even as hope grew, Lana knew the battle wasn't over. The pirates wouldn't go down without a fight, and the Horizon was still a sitting duck in the crossfire. The Ravager's desperation. Kradzak's fury boiled over as he watched his fleet crumble. He slammed a clawed fist on the console, cracking the surface. "These humans are more troublesome than I thought," he hissed. "Prepare the Kraken cannon." His crew hesitated. "But, Commander, the Kraken cannon is unstable." I gave you an order," Krazak roared. "Power it up." The Kraken cannon was the Ravager's most fearsome weapon, a massive energy cannon capable of devastating entire ships. But it was also volatile, and using it too soon risked catastrophic failure. The weapon hummed to life, its energy core glowing ominously. Krazak grinned, baring his sharp teeth. "Let's see how your precious warship handles this, humans." The Resolute's counterplay. Back on the Resolute, Athena detected the buildup of energy aboard the Ravager. "Warning. Enemy flagship is powering an unidentified weapon. Energy levels suggest a high-yield energy cannon," Athena said. Hayes' expression hardened. "They're getting desperate." "Voss, options. We could try to disrupt their weapon with EMP rounds," Voss suggested. "But we'd need to get closer, within their firing range." Hayes considered the risk. If they miscalculated, the Kraken cannon could destroy the Resolute in one shot, but retreat wasn't an option. "Do it," he said. "Bring us in and prepare EMP rounds." Athena, monitor their energy core for instability. The Resolute surged forward, closing the gap between itself and the Ravager. The pirate flagship loomed larger and larger on the display, its Kraken cannon glowing brighter by the second. The critical moment. On the Ravager, Krazak laughed as the human warship approached. "They're coming straight for us. Fools. Fire the Kraken cannon on my mark." But just as the weapon reached full charge, the Resolute unleashed its EMP rounds. The pulses struck the Ravager, disrupting its systems and causing the Kraken cannon to falter. "What's happening?" Krazak bellowed. One of his engineers shouted, "The cannon's energy core is destabilizing. It's going to." Before he could finish, the Kraken cannon's energy core overloaded. A massive explosion tore through the Ravager, sending shockwaves rippling through space. The flagship was crippled, its hull shattered and burning. Victory in sight. The Resolute pulled back to a safe distance, its crew watching as the Ravager floated lifelessly in the void. The remaining pirate ships, leaderless and terrified, fled into the darkness. Hayes leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smirk on his face. "That's what happens when you underestimate humanity." Voss grinned. "The galaxy's going to hear about this one." Hayes nodded, his expression turning serious. "Rescue teams to the Horizon. Let's bring those people home." The trap within a trap. The silence that followed the Ravager's destruction was unnerving. The Resolute hovered in the aftermath, its scanners sweeping the battlefield for any signs of lingering threats. On the bridge, Commander Hayes studied the holographic display, his instincts telling him the fight wasn't over. "They ran too easily," Hayes muttered. "Pirates don't abandon a prize this quickly." Lieutenant Area Voss frowned. "You think it's a setup?" "Not just a setup," Hayes said, his voice low. "A desperate one." Athena, focus scans on the asteroid field nearby. "If I were a pirate, that's where I'd regroup." The pirate fleet regroups. Deep within the asteroid field, the remnants of the Void Claws gathered in the shadows of tumbling rocks. Krazek, battered and furious but alive, barked orders from the bridge of his reserve ship, the Mauler. The escape had been intentional. Krazek knew the humans would pursue. They were predictable in their need to finish the job. Now, he planned to turn the asteroid field into their grave. "Deploy the mines," Krazek snarled, his claws tapping impatiently on the armrest of his makeshift throne. "I want every inch of that field rigged. When the humans follow us in, they'll be torn apart before they know what hit them." His crew obeyed without question, deploying hundreds of energy mines among the drifting rocks. The mines were nearly invisible, their signatures masked by the field's natural interference. The Resolute advances. The Resolute's engines hummed softly as the ship drifted toward the asteroid field. On board, the tension was palpable. The crew knew the field was a perfect place for an ambush. "Energy readings are spiking, Commander," Athena reported. "I am detecting faint, but irregular patterns consistent with cloaked explosives." Hayes nodded. "Just as I thought. They've mined the field." "Voss, what's their play?" "They're trying to lure us in," Voss replied, studying the tactical display. "They want us to get close enough for the mines to tear us apart. If we hesitate or retreat, they'll regroup and hit us again once they've resupplied." Hayes smiled grimly. "Then we won't hesitate. Athena, prepare the decoy drones. Let's see how many of their toys we can clear out before they realize what's happening." The decoy drones. Dozens of spherical drones launched from the Resolute, each one programmed to mimic the ship's energy signature. As they entered the asteroid field, the cloaked mines began to detonate, triggered by the false readings. Explosions rippled through the field, illuminating the asteroids with bursts of blue and orange light. Krazek's trap was unraveling before his eyes. "Commander," one of his officers shouted, "the mines are being triggered by decoys. The humans are clearing the field." Krazek snarled, his sharp teeth bared in frustration. "Focus fire on the drones. Don't let them sweep the field." But the pirates' weapons couldn't keep up with the swarm of decoys. One by one, the mines were eliminated, leaving the path to the Mauler exposed. Aboard the Horizon. On the horizon, Lana Reeves and her crew watched the spectacle from their powerless ship. "They're dismantling the pirates' ambush," Marcus said, a note of awe in his voice. Lana nodded, her admiration for the warship's crew growing with each passing moment. "They're not just fighting. They're outthinking them. That's what makes humans dangerous." The faint crackle of the comms broke through the silence. "Horizon, this is Commander Hayes of the Resolute. We've neutralized the immediate threat. Rescue teams are inbound to secure your ship and crew. Stand by." Lana exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Help has finally arrived," she whispered. Krazek's last move. On the Mauler, Krazek knew the situation was slipping out of his control, but he wasn't ready to admit defeat. His pride wouldn't allow it. "Activate the Scourge beacon," he growled. The crew hesitated. "But Commander, the beacon will call reinforcements from every pirate faction in the sector. It could also alert them." Krazek's eyes burned with rage. "I don't care. If I'm going down, I'm taking those humans with me." The Scourge beacon was an ancient piece of alien technology, an emergency signal that broadcast on all frequencies, calling for aid. It was a desperate gamble, but Krazek knew it was his only chance. The beacon activated, sending a pulse of crimson light through the asteroid field. The Resolute prepares for the unknown. On the Resolute, The Scourge beacon's signal lit up the scanners like a supernova. Athena's voice filled the bridge. Warning. High-frequency distress signal detected. Multiple ships responding. Estimated arrival. 10 minutes. Hayes frowned. That's not good. They're calling for reinforcements. Voss leaned closer to the display. What kind of reinforcements are we talking about? Unknown. Athena replied. Signal strength suggests vessels of varied sizes and origins, likely a mix of pirate factions. However, the signal also aligns with a previously unidentified alien frequency. Hayes's expression darkened. Something bigger is coming. He turned to the crew. Athena, calculate the fastest path to eliminate the Mauler. Voss, prepare the ship for a potential retreat. We're not sticking around to see what that beacon calls. The Mauler's countdown. As the Resolute surged forward, its weapons locking onto the Mauler, Kradzak watched with grim satisfaction. He didn't care if his ship was destroyed now. The beacon had done its job. You think you've won, humans. Kradzak hissed, his voice dripping with malice. You've just opened the door to a far greater enemy. The crew of the Resolute had no idea what awaited them beyond the asteroid field. But one thing was clear. The fight was far from over. Battle of wits. The Resolute's engines roared as it cut through the asteroid field, narrowly avoiding the debris still drifting in its wake. Commander Hayes stood firm on the bridge, his expression unreadable. The pirate's ship, the Mauler, was no longer a threat. Its shields had collapsed, and its hull was crumpled from the relentless barrage. But Hayes knew something bigger was coming. The Scourge beacon had already started sending out its call for reinforcements. They'll be here any minute, Voss said, her eyes locked on the tactical display. We need to move fast. Hayes nodded. We're not going anywhere until we've neutralized this threat. Athena, track the approaching ships. We need to know what we're up against. Athena's voice echoed through the bridge. Signal from Scourge beacon has escalated. Multiple ships inbound. Estimated time until first contact. 5 minutes. Hayes leaned forward. Voss, prep the boarding teams. I want them ready in case the pirates make a last-ditch attempt to escape. Understood, Commander, Voss replied. The incoming fleet. Deep in the void, on the edges of the asteroid field, a cluster of ships began to materialize. These were no ordinary pirate vessels. Their sleek, angular forms shimmered in the starlight, powered by a dark energy that sent unsettling pulses through the ship's scanners. There were 6 ships in total, but the largest one, a behemoth named the Vortex, loomed ominously ahead. Its size and the frequency of the signal it emitted screamed something ancient and powerful. They're almost here, Athena warned. Ship signatures are unfamiliar. The technology is alien. Alien. Voss repeated, her voice tight. How alien? Unknown origin, Athena confirmed. But their weapons systems are much more advanced than anything the pirates possess. Hayes didn't flinch. His fingers moved quickly over the console. Get us within range of the Mauler's wreckage. We'll make our stand there. No one gets off this rock. The Resolute accelerated, but the incoming alien fleet was fast. Hayes studied the display. The ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls reflecting a cold, black sheen that made them look like shadows in space. Prepare for engagement, Hayes said quietly. We're about to find out what kind of enemy we're dealing with. The Vortex attacks. The Vortex, the largest of the alien ships, opened fire first. A blast of crimson energy erupted from its front, slicing through space with deadly precision. The Resolute's shields flared as the energy slammed into them, a violent shockwave vibrating through the hull. Shields holding, but they're strong, Voss said. They're adapting to our defenses quickly. Hayes gritted his teeth. That's the problem with alien tech. It's always a step ahead. The Resolute returned fire, its weapons unleashing a barrage of kinetic and energy projectiles. But the alien ship's shields absorbed the hits with little effect, and it responded with another blast that made the ship shudder. They're too powerful, Voss said. frustration creeping into her voice. "We can't break their defenses." "We don't need to," Hayes replied, his voice calm but firm. "We just need to stall them long enough." A deadly game. The Resolute danced around the alien ships, dodging blasts and expertly positioning itself for counterattacks. But Hayes knew they were playing a dangerous game. The longer they fought, the more they risked losing ground, and once those alien reinforcements arrived in full, their options would shrink dramatically. "We need to outthink them," Hayes said, his mind racing. "Athena, how much time until we can execute a maneuver?" "A minute and a half, Commander. We'll need to get within a safe distance for optimal targeting." "That's not good enough," Hayes muttered. He turned to Voss. "Can we hit them with a blindside strike?" Voss hesitated. "If we get close enough, but they'll anticipate the move." "Then let's make them anticipate something else," Hayes said. "Athena, scramble our energy readings. I want them thinking we're retreating." "What are you suggesting, sir?" Voss asked. "We'll fake them out," Hayes replied. "We'll turn tail, make them think we're retreating. When they go in for the kill, we'll spring the trap." The feint. The Resolute's engines roared as it altered course, pulling back from the alien fleet. The move was calculated, and Hayes watched as the ships of the alien fleet shifted their positions, clearly preparing to pursue. They had taken the bait. "We're in position," Athena said. "Energy readings are scrambled. They think we're retreating." "Now," Hayes ordered. Without warning, the Resolute veered sharply, thrusting itself back toward the vortex, with all the speed its engines could muster. The alien fleet, caught off guard, tried to realign for defense, but it was too late. The Resolute's railguns and torpedoes fired in rapid succession, launching precise blasts directly at the vortex's weaker flank. The first strike hit, followed by a second, then a third. The vortex's shields flickered under the relentless assault, and finally, with a violent explosion, a large section of the alien ship's armor cracked, exposing its core. "A direct hit," Voss shouted. "The vortex's shields are down. Their main reactor is exposed." Hayes didn't hesitate. "Full power to the forward guns. Finish it." The vortex's last stand. The vortex shuddered as another round of fire tore through its exposed reactor core. The alien ship's engines flickered, and for a brief moment, it seemed as if the battle might be over. But then, something unexpected happened. The ship's core pulsed with an eerie light, and a massive energy beam shot out from its center, catching the Resolute square in its path. The beam slammed into the warship, sending shockwaves through its structure. "Shields failing," Athena warned. "Energy core at 40%. We're taking massive damage." "Evasive maneuvers now," Hayes barked. "Voss, keep us in the fight. We're not done yet." But as the Resolute twisted to avoid the energy beam, the alien ship's last desperate attack had already bought time for its remaining fleet to close the gap. The fight was no longer just about one ship. Now it was about survival. A deadly gamble. Hayes grimaced as he saw the alien fleet's reinforcements flooding into the sector, now fully engaged in the fray. His plan had worked. The vortex was crippled, but they were surrounded. Time was running out. "We can't keep this up forever," Voss said, her voice tight with strain. "We need a miracle, Commander." A cold smile spread across Hayes' face. "Then let's give them a reason to fear humanity." Athena, already a step ahead, reported. "Emergency protocols activated. Manual control of all systems engage." Hayes gripped the armrest of his seat, his voice unwavering. "Prepare for the final strike." The turning point. The Resolute was reeling. Its hull was scared, shields flickering weakly as the alien fleet closed in from all sides. The enemy ships, sleek and menacing, circled like sharks drawn to blood. Hayes' crew had done everything they could to hold the line, but the gap between them and victory was narrowing fast. "Commander," Voss called out, her voice strained, "we're outgunned. Their reinforcements are too powerful. The vortex is crippled, but the rest of their fleet is still intact. Hayes glanced at the display. 6 alien ships, heavily armed, closing in fast. Each one was larger and more menacing than anything humanity had faced before. The Resolute was barely holding together, its systems glitching from the strain of constant combat. The once pristine warship was now a shadow of its former self. Athena's calm voice broke the tense silence. Warning. Alien reinforcements are deploying boarding pods. They're preparing to board. That's it, Hayes muttered under his breath. They're going for the kill. They know we're weak, and they're coming to finish us off. A bold gambit. The tension in the air was palpable as Hayes gripped the armrest of his chair, his mind racing. The odds were impossible, but he had one card left to play. A final, desperate gamble. "Voss," he said, voice steady but sharp, "I need you to get us close enough to the vortex. We're going in." Voss turned to him, her eyes wide in disbelief. "Are you insane? That ship's barely holding together, and the fleet is closing in. They'll tear us apart before we even get close." Hayes met her gaze, unwavering. "If we don't do this, we lose everything. The vortex has something we can use, its core. We can detonate it and take out the entire fleet." Voss's eyes widened as the plan unfolded in her mind. "You're going to make us a living bomb." Hayes nodded, his jaw clenched. "Exactly. We take the vortex's core, and we turn it against them. We give everything to stop this threat." The dangerous approach. With the alien fleet closing in fast, the Resolute steeled itself for the risky approach. Athena mapped out a course that would bring them dangerously close to the disabled vortex, weaving through the alien fleet's defensive lines. Voss threw herself into the controls, fingers flying over the consoles as she executed a series of rapid evasive maneuvers. The ship's damaged engines groaned under the strain, but they held. The Resolute dodged blast after blast from the alien ships, narrowly avoiding their devastating firepower. "This is going to be tight," Voss said through clenched teeth. "We're almost within range." The alien fleet seemed to sense what was happening. Their ships tightened their formations, and some launched their boarding pods, heading straight for the Resolute. "We've got incoming," Athena warned. "Boarding pods, 2 minutes to impact." "Not now," Hayes muttered. "Focus on the vortex." The final push. With a final burst of speed, the Resolute lunged toward the vortex's crippled core. The surrounding alien ships opened fire, desperate to stop the humans from reaching their target. Explosions rocked the Resolute, and alarms blared as another barrage hit its shields. "We're taking heavy damage, Commander," Voss shouted. "We won't last much longer if we don't get inside that ship." Hayes clenched his fists, his mind focused entirely on the objective. He had calculated every move, every risk. But even now, the chance of survival was slim. It was a 1-in-a-million shot. Then, the Resolute docked with the broken vortex, its boarding bay connecting to the alien ship's breached hull. Hayes's voice was calm but urgent. "Prepare for boarding. Voss, you're with me. We need to plant the charges and get out before this ship goes up." Aboard the vortex. The air inside the vortex was heavy with tension. Hayes and Voss, armed with explosive charges and desperate resolve, moved swiftly through the dark corridors of the alien vessel. The once pristine interior was now a maze of twisted metal and flickering lights. Alien tech hummed ominously around them, and the ship seemed to pulse with a life of its own. "We don't have much time," Voss said, her voice low as she planted a charge on a large alien reactor. "Once these are set, we have 5 minutes to get clear. No room for mistakes." Hayes nodded, his eyes scanning their surroundings. Every second counted. "Let's make sure they remember humanity." The final charge was planted on the reactor's core. The hum of alien technology filled the air, but the countdown had already begun. Hayes and Voss raced back to the docking bay, adrenaline pumping through their veins. The countdown. Back aboard the Resolute, Athena's voice cut through the tension. "Commander, the alien fleet is moving in. They've launched more boarding pods, and the vortex's core is about to become unstable. Get us out of here, Athena," Hayes ordered, his voice steely. Voss, breathless, slammed her hand onto the control panel. "We've got less than 3 minutes to get clear." Outside, the alien fleet continued its relentless advance. The Resolute's engines flared to life, pushing the warship away from the doomed vortex. The explosion would soon follow. The explosion. With only seconds to spare, the reactor core of the vortex overloaded. A blinding burst of light filled the dark space, a shockwave of destruction that tore through the alien fleet. The alien ships around the vortex were obliterated in an instant, their structures crumbling under the sheer force of the blast. But the Resolute, already at full speed, was far enough away to avoid the worst of the explosion. Still, the force of the blast rocked the ship, and the crew felt the tremor. "Report," Hayes barked. "We're clear, Commander," Voss said, a grin spreading across her face. "The fleet's gone." Athena confirmed. "The remaining alien ships have been destroyed. The threat has been neutralized. Victory at a cost." The Resolute drifted in the aftermath, battered but victorious. The crew, though weary and bloodied, let out a collective sigh of relief. The tide had turned, and humanity had won against impossible odds. Hayes stood on the bridge, surveying the wreckage on the view screen. "It's not over yet," he said, his voice low. "The galaxy will know what humanity is capable of. But we've sent a message today." "A message?" Voss asked. "That we will never back down, not even in the face of impossible odds," Hayes replied. "And no one, not even the stars themselves, can stop us." Victory and mourning. The aftermath of the battle left the universe still. The Resolute floated among the wreckage of the alien fleet, its hull scorched and scarred from the vicious fight. The crew was exhausted, their faces pale but resolute. They had emerged victorious, but the cost had been high. The final assault, the explosion of the vortex, had wiped out the threat, but there was no joy in the victory, just a grim sense of duty fulfilled. Commander Hayes stood on the bridge, looking out at the debris scattered across the sector. The distant remains of the vortex floated like the shattered bones of a dead beast. It was hard to believe that just hours ago, these ships had been poised to erase humanity from the galaxy. Now, the message was clear. The pirates, the alien fleets, they were nothing compared to what humanity could endure. "Commander," Voss's voice broke through his thoughts. "The horizon is secure. Rescue teams are en route, and we've received word that more fleets are starting to head toward the sector. Humanity's response is already in motion." Hayes nodded, a small weary smile tugging at his lips. "That's good. The pirates may have learned their lesson, but we need to make sure the rest of the galaxy does too." "A lesson?" Voss asked, arching an eyebrow. "That anyone who threatens humanity will regret it. The pirates thought they could dominate this sector. Now they'll know better." Hayes turned, his eyes locking with hers. "And the rest of the galaxy, they'll be watching." "The message is clear." Athena's calm voice interjected. "Commander, incoming transmission. It's from the United Earth Council." The message. Hayes stepped forward, listening as the transmission crackled to life. The familiar voice of Admiral Ida Monroe came through, steady and proud. "Commander Hayes, this is Admiral Monroe of the United Earth Fleet. Your actions have been noted. The destruction of the Void Claw fleet and the alien reinforcements has saved countless lives, and humanity owes you and your crew a debt of gratitude." Hayes felt the weight of the words but said nothing. It wasn't about gratitude. It was about survival. The United Earth Fleet will be dispatching reinforcements to secure this region. However, Admiral Monroe's voice grew more serious. "You've done more than eliminate a pirate threat. You've struck fear into the hearts of those who believed humanity was weak. Now, the galaxy will be watching. We expect other factions to react to what you've done. Some may try to test us, but we will stand firm." A brief silence followed before she spoke again. "I've already begun to mobilize additional forces to ensure that the Void Claw's allies are put on notice. The war is far from over, Commander. But humanity's place in this galaxy is no longer in question. You've proven it." The real threat. Hayes leaned against the console, his gaze unwavering. "Admiral, what happens now? We've taken down the Void Claws, but the message we've sent, how will they interpret it?" Admiral Monroe's voice was grim. "With fear, Commander. And that's not all. The Void Claws are just one faction in a galaxy filled with dangerous creatures. But you're right. What you've done here will make them think twice. And what comes next, we'll need to be ready for." Hayes's mind raced. He had always known this day would come. The day humanity would no longer be seen as weak, a speck in the galaxy's vastness. But now, the real struggle was just beginning. The pirates would regroup, and other threats would emerge from the shadows, testing the resolve of the human race. "We'll be ready, Admiral," Hayes replied, his voice steady. "We've made our mark. We've shown them what happens when they underestimate humanity. And we'll keep showing them," Monroe said, a steel edge creeping into her voice. "The galaxy knows the price of crossing us now. But that's not enough. We must prepare for what's coming next." The first sign. As the transmission ended, a sudden alert flashed across the Resolute's display. Hayes's expression darkened. "Commander, there's something you need to see," Voss said, stepping forward. Hayes turned to the screen, where a new set of readings flickered into view. The numbers didn't make sense at first, but as they continued to analyze the data, the significance became clear. "A signal," Voss murmured. "This frequency. It's not like anything we've ever encountered." Athena's voice filled the bridge once more. "The signal is transmitting from a distant sector, well outside known space. It appears to be a call for reinforcements, but not from any known faction." Hayes frowned. This wasn't just an ordinary signal. Something had picked up the void left by the destroyed Void Claw fleet, and something was responding. "They're coming," Hayes said, his voice low and steely. "It was never going to end with pirates. We've awakened something else. The unseen enemy." The Resolute sensors traced the origins of the mysterious signal, but the readings were difficult to decipher. It was as though the galaxy itself had thrown up an impenetrable wall around the message. The crew could feel the tension in the air, growing with every passing second. "We can't identify them, Commander," Athena said, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "The technology is far beyond anything we've encountered before. It's like they're anticipating us." Voss turned to Hayes, her eyes sharp. "What do we do?" Hayes stood up straight, his gaze fixed on the data. He wasn't scared. He was ready. He had already seen what humanity could accomplish when pushed to the brink. "We do what we've always done," he said, his voice filled with resolve. "We stand firm. Whatever this is, we'll face it. And we'll show them why humanity is not to be underestimated." A deep silence filled the room. The crew of the Resolute knew that this was just the beginning. Whatever force was behind this unknown signal, whatever darkness now stirred in the depths of space, they had just made humanity's worst enemy. But in doing so, they had forged something stronger than any weapon or alien fleet. They had forged unity. The universe would soon learn. Humanity wasn't just a force to be reckoned with. They were a force that would never back down.